What's up, Air Force? It's your girl, Ari Melanie's, back again with another video. And don't come for me, because I need a little maintenance. Hear me out? Right. But, yeah. I know the scenery is different. I'm outside. Today just feels nice. It feels nice, like a nice little evening. But I got Teddy with me. Say hey, Ted. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. But I got Teddy with me right now. I'm walking her, and I just figured, why not kill two birds with one stone? You know what I mean? So today, for this Righteous Rambling episode, we are just gonna expand on the idea or the concept, really the same thing, but we're just gonna expand on why I stopped enabling sin / being in sinful environments, right? This topic is one of the harder things to do because it's still a struggle for me. One of the harder things to do, just because the circumstances may not always seem the most, how do I explain it? So obviously with the obvious sins, it's a lot easier, right? Because why would you intentionally, as a follower of Christ who doesn't believe in getting drunk or smoking, things of that nature, right? Why would you intentionally put yourself in an environment around people who do those things? You know what I mean? I feel like that's when it's easier to not be in those environments. But say, for instance, if you're at work, right? And you're friends with some coworkers who like to gossip. You know what I mean? It's not as easy to just be like, I'm not going to be in this environment. Because obviously, you at work. You got to come to work, right? But that don't mean you have to participate in those conversations. And I guess that's where the / comes in terms of the enabling sin part, right? And these things, like I said already, are not the easiest to do. I know I struggle in those areas, especially when it comes to work situations, because sometimes gossiping don't seem or feel like gossip, especially in those moments where you're having discussions where you agree with the things that are being said. You just may not agree with the way that they're coming out or the certain things that they're saying about particular individuals, but the situation, you share the same opinion regarding the situation, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna give you an example, right? So say with your work situation, the management is terrible, everything is just poor, piss poor management, piss poor teamwork, whatever the case may be, right? And you may start a conversation around that thought, that idea, that reality, that fact, correct? But then when it progresses into someone particularly calling out an individual, and when it gets messy, when they start calling them out their name or making fun of them, mocking them, when it becomes a thing that is tearing somebody's character down, that is ungodly as a whole in general, then it becomes something where it's I can't really partake in this conversation too much longer. And that's when you kind of gotta either shut the conversation down, which I know sometimes can be hard, or you just have to learn to walk away and represent Christ in that way. When you start to not respond in those environments or in those conversations, when it gets like that, I think it becomes easier for people to pick up on, the fact that you're just not going to participate in that. Obviously, if you directly say, yeah, don't say that to me, say that to their face, or whatever the case may be, obviously they will know or try to be more conscious about having those conversations around you. But obviously everybody's not going to take kindly to you rejecting their gossip or their sin, whatever you want to say, right? So yeah, you could get negative backlash in the sense of people just looking at you funny because they think you too uptight, or they think you, which I feel like is kind of contradictory and ironic to say this, but they may think you're judgmental, or like whatever the case may be, you could face some persecution for, standing up for what's right. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the fact of the matter. So I know in some scenarios and situations, it's not always the easiest thing to do. And obviously, I would recommend praying about which way to go about it. But I've just found myself in countless situations in my work environment where I started to feel that conviction about the work gossip. And I was like, ooh, because it's such a sneaky thing. And I was conscious about it in another setting where I guess it's easier, because in the situations, this other example I'm going to give, I wasn't in agreement with the things that were being said. So it was a lot easier for me to vocalize my disapproval of that thing. You know what I mean? Or to say like, this shouldn't be done. And of course, I faced persecution for it. But what I eventually learned to do, because I'm not too fond of like repeating myself when it comes to stuff like that. So it's like, especially if it's going to start like confrontation and stuff like that. And that's not to say that you should always avoid confrontation, but it's just like, sometimes you just got to pick your battles. For me, sometimes it don't be worth it, because I find myself getting worked up. And when I get like that, I start thinking and wanting to do unholy things. So in certain situations, I've learned how to just walk away from it or not participate in certain conversations. It's a lot easier over the phone than it is in person. Obviously, you know what I mean? If it's in a group text, you can easily just not respond. However, if it's in person, if you already mid conversation and somebody just throws some little shade, some little tea out there, it kind of just be like, ooh. Especially if it's funny, that's when it really be hard for me personally, because my coworkers are hilarious. And when I tell you, it be a kiki ha ha, like. And if you know me personally, I'm like very goofy, so I find humor in a lot of things, probably in a lot of things that I should not find humor in. But that's a struggle for me also. But I try my best in that regard. But yeah, so for me specifically, there were some other situations where I found myself when I first had got saved, because I have family members that are still in the world, and they participate in activities that are not of God, of course, right? And I found myself in a place where it was like, well, I'm not doing it, so whatever y'all got going on, cool, right? But then it got to a point where their blood was on my hands, because even though I was not participating in it, I was not making it clear that I completely disapproved of it. It was more so just like I'm not gonna do it, but you can, so to speak, type of thing, right? But then there were two different situations. Not saying that it was only two, but I'm just gonna give you two different examples, right? There was a situation where I had a family member who was not of age to purchase a particular substance. Feel what I'm saying? And being like the big fun cousin or whatever, like I didn't care about stuff like that. Like I would just go do it, right? But then I started to get that conviction, like, if first of all, that they don't have intent of saying like sober doing these things, but also too, it's like, if they can't get it on their own, you going to get it for them. It's like, like morally, it's just like the math don't math. So I had to come to a place where I was like, yeah, I don't think the Lord wants me to do that for you. Like like I just had to get to that place where I would just have to completely take my hands out of the situation. Like I can't go purchase a certain thing for you, or I can't go. In the second scenario, it's like, I know I got the connection, but if that's something that you want to do, you gonna have to be the one to reach out to that connection to get whatever you got going on. I can't tell you what to do. I told you it's wrong already, and hence why I don't participate in it. But just because I got this connection don't mean that I'm gonna be the one that's gonna plug you in. Like, if that's something y'all want to do, that's between y'all. But me personally, I ain't asking nobody nothing. So at this point it's pretty clear that I'm not the one to go to support and enable your sinful habits, right? And that's not to say that I'm perfect and I get things right every single time, but I'm definitely a lot more conscious and aware of those things. It's definitely a lot harder with things that seem less sinful, with the sins that aren't as obvious, that are a little bit more sneaky, that are a little more discreet, that are a little more, what word do you want to use? I guess normalized, or, but yeah, I just had to come to a place where, and I'm not trying to say that this is something that was of my doing, because like I said, like I started to feel these convictions personally, and that's when I had a choice to make, you know what I mean? And so once you start to feel those convictions, pray about how the Lord wants you to go about these situations, because there's a reason that you're feeling like it's wrong. Like, that's the Holy Spirit telling you, like, hey, like, you shouldn't be doing this, you know what I mean? But not only should you not be doing this, you choosing not to do it, but actively participating in, like, endorsing somebody else doing it is basically essentially the same thing as you doing it yourself. You know what I mean? So definitely pray about how the Lord wants you to go about those situations. Fair warning, they persecuted Jesus, and his word tells us that if he was persecuted, of course we're going to be persecuted for following him, choosing to follow him, choosing to walk with him, choosing to go against the things of this world. That's what you have to expect being a follower of Christ, you know what I mean? And that's not to scare anybody, that's not to make anybody feel like, well, I don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we're not here to please man, we're here to please God alone. And if anybody around you has an issue with that, quite frankly, they're just gonna have to take that up with God. You just make sure you're in right standing with God, and that's by any means necessary. Now, I'm not saying just go, start shoving stuff down people's throats, or like just being rude, or like just being unnecessary, going out your way to like condemn people. You know what I mean? Of course, don't do that. But if it comes down to it, and it's like somebody asks you something that the Lord has told you not to do, or that the Lord has convicted you about, be open and honest with the people that are coming to you with that thing, and just say like, hey, like, I don't think the Lord would want me to do that. And however they respond is however they respond. At the end of the day, obedience is better than sacrifice. So I would highly recommend being obedient to our Father, because he's the only one who got a heaven or hell to put us in. Amen. So yeah, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this Righteous Rambling episode. Pretty straightforward, straight to the point. I pray that y'all were blessed by this video. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Share if you feel like it. I love y'all so much. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all be blessed. Go do a good deed. Give your life to Christ if you have not already. I will see y'all in my next video. Love you so much.